Painting was supposed to be dead. Photography killed it, then video killed it again. And now AI promises to finish the job. And yet, in 2026, painting remains one of the most powerful, most valuable, and most talked about forces in contemporary art. Auction houses still break records for painted canvases. Museums still build entire wings around them. And a small group of artists keep proving decade after decade that stretched canvas and pigment can still say something that no other medium can. In this video, we are counting down 13 of the most influential contemporary painters working today. Artists who didn't just make great paintings, but who changed what painting itself is allowed to be. You see artists who turned canvases into battlefields of memory and history. Artists who flattened the world into pure color and language. And artists who took the camera's images and dragged them back into paint by hand. Some of these names you already know. Others may surprise you. But every single one of them has done something no one else has, built a visual language so distinct that you could recognize their work from across a room without even seeing a signature. So let's get into it. From Scotch fields and cubist distortion to swimming pools and Instagram screenshots turned into art, these are painters shaping contemporary culture right now. Yayoi Kusama. Yayoi Kusama is one of the most recognizable and commercially significant living artists, celebrated for a practice built on obsessive repetition, infinite pattern, and immersive color. Working across painting, sculpture, and installation since the 1950s, the Japanese artist is best known for her dot motifs and infinite net paintings, dense hypnotic fields of repeated marks that seem to expand endlessly beyond the canvas edge. Kusama has spoken openly about hallucinations she experienced from childhood, describing how patterns of dots and nets will overtake her fields of vision, and how painting became a way of processing and controlling these experiences. This deeply personal origins gives her seemingly decorative motifs a psychological intensity that separates her from pure pattern making. Her pumpkin sculptures and mirrored infinity rooms have made her a global cultural phenomenon, drawing enormous crowds to museums and blurring the lines between fine art and mass spectacle. Kusama has lived voluntarily in a Tokyo psychiatric facility since the 1970s, continuing to paint daily in a nearby studio, a routine that underscores how inseparable her art making is from her personal survival. Yet at the core of her practice remains painting. Obsessive, meditative, and repetitive mark making that turns anxiety into pattern. Kusama's influence on contemporary art extends into fashion, designs, and popular culture, and her ability to translate deeply personal psychological experience into universally accessible, immersive imagery has made her one of the defining artistic voices of the past century. Bridget Riley. Bridget Riley is a prominent figure in op art, a movement that uses precise geometric abstraction to create genuine optical sensation on the canvas. Since the 1960s, the British painter has produced works composed of strips, curves, and repeated forms that appear to shimmer, vibrate, and move despite being entirely static and meticulously planned. Riley's early black and white paintings, such as her famous wave and strip compositions, generate disorienting visual effects, purely through contrast and rhythm, without any color at all. Over subsequent decades, she introduced color into her systems, developing complex arrangements of curved and diagonal stripes that produce shifting, almost musical rhythms across the canvas. Every element is calculated with mathematical precision, yet the resulting experience feels organic and alive. Riley typically works out her compositions through extensive preparatory studies and gouache color trials before assistants help execute the large final canvases. A studio process that treats painting almost like a musical score to be composed and performed. Riley's significance lies in proving that abstraction could engage the body and the eye directly, producing physical sensation rather than symbolic or emotional content. Her work bridges fine art, science, and perception studies, and her influence can be traced through generations of abstract painters interested in pattern, color theory, and perceptual experience. Now in her 90s, Riley continues to refine her systems, and her paintings remain some of the most instantly recognizable and rigorously intelligent achievements in post-war abstraction. John Currin. John Currin has built a deliberately provocative and technically virtuosic body of work by fusing old master painting techniques with kitsch, satire, and often uncomfortable subject matter. Trained in classical figurative technique, Currin paints with the smooth finish and glowing light associated with Renaissance and Northern European portraiture, but applies that skill to subjects drawn to advertising and suburban American culture. His early portraits of exaggeratedly proportioned women, often satirizing beauty standards and aging, sparked immediate controversy and debate about whether the work critiqued or simply indulged in objectification. Currin has never offered easy answers, instead using ambiguity and dark humor as a core tool. His paintings sit deliberately in a space between admiration and unease, tenderness and mockery. Later works incorporating explicit sexual imagery pushed his practice further into contested territory, while his technical command over glazing, anatomy, and composition never wavered, forcing critics to reckon with beautifully executed paintings or ugly or transgressive ideas. His use of old-fashioned rabbit skin glue grounds, extempore underpainting, and slow oil glazing method borrowed directly from century-old workshop practice underscores just how deliberate his classicism is. Currin's importance to contemporary painting lies in his insistence that classical technique isn't obsolete. It can be repurposed as a vehicle for irony, discomfort, and cultural critique. He remains one of the most technically skilled and polarizing figurative painters working today, influencing a wave of artists blending realism with satire. Richard Prince. Richard Prince builds his reputation by asking an uncomfortable question. What happens to authorship when an artist simply rephotographs, repaints, or represents existing images? Imagine in the late 1970s and 1980s alongside the pictures generation, Prince became notorious for his rephotography, most famously his Marlboro Man cowboy images taken directly from secret advertisements and represented as fine art. His practice expanded into painting through works like the joke paintings Crude, hand-lettered text pieces recounting off-color jokes on monochrome grounds, and the Norse paintings, which approached pop novel book covers and reworked them with washes of paint and ink. More recently, his controversial new portrait series lifted screenshots of other people's Instagram posts and presented them as large-scale prints, igniting fierce debates about copyright, consent, and ownership in the digital age. His Carhood paintings and de Kooning-inspired works further extend his practice of layering and reworking existing visual materials rather than inventing imagery from scratch. Prince's significance lies in how directly he confronts appropriation, celebrity, and mass media as raw material for painting, often provoking legal battles and public controversy in the process. He forced the art world to reckon with questions that have only become more urgent in the era of AI-generated imagery and social media. Who owns an image, and what transforms a copy into art? Love him or loathe him, Prince remains unavoidable in conversations about authorship today. David Hockney. David Hockney is perhaps the most publicly loved painter in the past 60 years, celebrated for a body of work that spans swimming pools, portraiture, English landscapes, and more recently, digital iPad drawings emerging from British pop art in the 1960s before relocating to Los Angeles. Hockney became famous for his crisp, sun-drenched depictions of California modernism, splashing pools, palm trees, and glass-walled homes rendered in flat, saturated acrylic color. What distinguishes Hockney is his restless curiosity about vision itself. He has spent decades investigating perspective, optics, and the mechanics of seeing, famously arguing that old masters painters used optical devices centuries before photography. This fascination led him towards reversed perspective, photographic collages, and eventually digital tools, which he embraced not as a gimmick but as a natural extension of drawing. In recent years, Hockney has produced vast, vividly colored landscape paintings of Normandy and Yorkshire alongside iPad works exhibited in major museums, proving that technology and traditional painting can coexist rather than compete. He has also continued to experiment with multi-camera video installation and reverse perspective stage designs, always returning to the same core question of how human vision differs from the mechanical eye of a camera. His embrace of new tools while remaining devoted to observation and color has made him a bridge between analog and digital painting traditions and an enduring influence on artists unafraid to blend old craft with new means. Sadly, he passed away 11th of June 2026. Anselm Kiefer. Anselm Kiefer stands as one of the most monumental figures in post-war and contemporary painting. Born in Germany in 1945, just months after the end of World War II, Kiefer built his career on confronting the weight of German history, memory, and myth subjects that many of his contemporaries preferred to avoid. His canvases are less paintings in the traditional sense than physical excavations. Thick layers of straw, lead, ash, clay, and scorched wood are built up, burned, and embedded directly into the surface, giving the work a sculptural, almost geological presence. Kiefer's recurring motifs, scorched fields, collapsing architecture, sunflowers, and references to Wagnerian opera, Kabbalah, and German romantic poetry create a dense visual language that grapples with trauma, guilt, and transcendence simultaneously. He doesn't just depict landscapes, he seems to enact ruin and regeneration on the canvas itself. Working from a sprawling studio complex in France, he often produces paintings on an almost architectural scale, some stretching dozens of feet across, turning gallery spaces into immersive environments rather than simple display walls for framed images. What makes Kiefer so significant to contemporary art is his refusal to separate beauty from horror. His work insists that painting can still carry the burden of history in an age of digital distraction. Represented by major galleries and housed in institutions worldwide, Kiefer has expanded what a painting can physically be, somewhere between canvas, monument, and ruin, while proving that ambition and skill still matter in contemporary art. Ruscha has spent over 6 decades reshaping how painting engages with language, American vernacular, and visual culture of the West. Emerging in Los Angeles art scene in 1960s, Ruscha became known for paintings that treat words as images, single phrases, gas station signs, or Hollywood-style lettering rendered with commercial precision against wide cinematic backgrounds. His work sits at the intersection of pop art and conceptualism, but Ruscha carved his own lane entirely. Rather than celebrating consumer imagery the way Warhol did, Ruscha examined the emptiness and poetry of American roadside culture, gas station, parking lots, and Hollywood sign, and deadpan text works like Oof and The End. His paintings often feel like stills from a film that never existed, drenched in dusty desert light and ironic distance. Alongside his paintings, Ruscha's photo books documenting gas stations and Sunset Strip storefronts help pioneer a deadpan documentary sensibility that still runs through contemporary photography and conceptual art. Ruscha's influence on younger generations of painters, particularly those working with text, branding, and appropriated imagery, is immense. He proved that flatness, humor, and vernacular language could carry the same conceptual weight as traditional painterly subjects. In 2026, as text-based and meme-influenced art continues to grow, Ruscha remains a fundamental reference point, an artist who treated the American landscape and the American sentence as inseparable subjects worthy of serious painting. Jasper Johns. Jasper Johns occupies a singular place in the history of painting as the artist who dismantled the emotional excess of abstract expressionism and replaced it with cool, conceptual precision. Beginning in the 1950s, Johns turned to everyday symbols, flags, targets, numbers, and maps, not to make political statements, but to interrogate the very nature of representation itself. A painting of a flag is both an object and an image, and Johns forced viewers to sit with that paradox. His technique, often built from encaustic, pigment mixed with hot wax, layered on newspaper and collage, gives his surface a rich tactile complexity that rewards close looking. Beneath the cool exterior of his subject lies dense, painterly texture, a tension between detachment and craft that became a hallmark of his practice. His bronze sculptures of everyday objects like flashlights and beer cans extended this same inquiry into 3 dimensions, blurring the line between ordinary objects and art objects, just as his paintings blur the lines between symbol and thing. John's influence extends far beyond his own canvases. He helped open the door to pop art, minimalism, and conceptual art simultaneously, while never abandoning painting as his primary language. Still active and revered well into the 21st century, Johns remains a touchstone for artists exploring symbol, repetition, and philosophical questions embedded in representation. His work asks a question that still animates painting today. What does it mean to depict something everyone already recognizes? Gerhard Richter. Gerhard Richter is widely regarded as one of the greatest living painters, celebrated for a body of work so stylistically varied that it almost defies a single signature. Born in Dresden in 1932 and trained under socialist realism before fleeing to West Germany, Richter has spent his career oscillating between photorealistic painting and pure abstraction, often within the same period of his practice. His photo paintings, blurred grayscale renderings based on found or personal photographs, interrogate memory, history, and the unreliability of images, particularly in relation to Germany's difficult 20th century past. Simultaneously, his abstract paintings, created by dragging a large squeegee loaded with paint across the canvas, produce unpredictable, richly textured surfaces where chance and control collide. He has also produced digitally derived works such as his large strip paintings generated by slicing and stretching an earlier abstract image into fine bands of color, showing his continued willingness to let technology reshape his process late in his career. This duality is precisely what makes Richest so influential. He treats painting as an open-ended investigation rather than a fixed style. His willingness to question whether painting can represent truth after photography, war, and mass media has made him a philosophical anchor for contemporary art. Younger painters continue to draw from both his blurred realism and his squidgy abstractions, and his market presence remains among the strongest of any living artists. Richest's career suggests that doubt itself can be a powerful engine for painting. Georg Baselitz. Georg Baselitz is best known for a single radical gesture that redefined his entire career, painting his subjects upside down. Beginning in 1969, the German artist inverted his figures' portraits, nudes, forests, eagles, forcing viewers to confront the painting, brushwork, and composition itself rather than simply reading the image as a narrative or symbol. This inversion became his signature, a way of separating subject matter from painterly technique. Baselitz emerged from a divided, war-scared Germany, and his entire painting was raw, aggressive, and deliberately crude, rejecting both socialist realism and the polished abstraction dominant at the time. His thick, expressive brushwork and unsettling, fragmented figures align him with neo-expressionism, a movement he helped define alongside artists like Kiefer and A.R. Penck. His sculptural work, carved with a chainsaw from raw tree trunks, carries the same deliberately unrefined energy that defined his painting since the 1960s. His influence on contemporary figurative painting is enormous. By inverting the image, he demonstrated that painting could be simultaneously representational and radically abstract, giving permission to generations of artists to disrupt conventional composition while still working within a figurative tradition. Baselitz remained proof that a single formal decision can generate a lifetime of meaning. Katz. Katz has spent over 70 years perfecting a style of flat, graphic, and unmistakably elegant portraiture and landscape painting that stands apart from nearly every major movement of his time. Emerging in New York during the height of abstract expressionism, Katz rejects the gestural drama of his peers in favor of crisp outlines, large areas of unmodulated color, and a billboard-like sense of scale and simplicity. His portraits, often of his wife and muse, Ada, along with friends from the New York's art and literary circles, captures fleeting, glamorous moments with a cool, almost cinematic detachment. Katz's landscapes, particularly his depictions of the coast of Maine, apply that same economy of form to nature, reducing trees, water, and light to elegant fields of color. His practice of working from small oil sketches before scaling up to monumental canvases allows him to preserve spontaneity even in works many feet wide. What makes Katz so enduringly influential is his mastery of surface simplicity that conceal enormous technical control. His paintings look effortless, but they are the product of rigorous editing, where every erroneous detail is stripped away. Now in his 90s and still actively producing major new work, Katz has become a touchstone for painters interested in flatness, scale, and the fusion of high art with the visual language of advertising and fashion photography. Proof that restraint can be just as radical as excess.